Welcome everybody to the Mastery or to the World of Ability Podcast Network. My name is Emily Gelmer and a podcast engineer here. And we're excited to bring you another episode of the Mastery of Connections with Alan Holmes. We're actually called the Master Connector. And so we do this show every Wednesday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central, 8 o'clock Pacific. And it's all about um, um, networking and making connections. As Alan likes to say, it's all about we, not me. So, with nothing further ado, I'm going to bring in Alan to kick us off today. Welcome, Alan.
Good morning, Emily. Good morning. How are you, young lady? Appreciate you. Can you hear me?
Yep, if I can hear you good.
Um, all right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for allowing me to be in coming to your lives, ladies and gentlemen. And as we begin, today is September 11th. It's a day of remembrance, of honor, reverence, and what better way to bring back a gentleman who was actually our very first guest of the Massive Connections, Mr. Jared Smith, who's a veteran of this great country, and who had the honor and privilege of taking busy his time out of his busy schedule to come meet with us today. Jared, are you available to come and say hello to folks and kind of introduce yourself, or reintroduce yourself, as we honor this great nation and this great time? I thank you, brother, for again, first of all, thank you again for your service, and being part of our brothers in arms and veterans of this great country and what you've done. Um, Thank you for coming back and kind of give us a recap for those who don't know you, a little bit about your story, as we go through this journey together on 9/11. A little about yourself and your business. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, so absolutely. I guess I first want to say, obviously today being 9/11, it's a day of remembrance, day of, you know, I think we all know where we were, when 9/11 happened. Um, I don't think that's going to be a day that will ever change. Also, the guys that got killed in Benghazi, it's also their anniversary as well. So being military, I think we both understand what that brings and that has an effect. 9/11 was a big reason why I joined the military, and something that always stuck with me. But anyway, so that's enough about I guess 9/11. A little bit about me. I live here in San Antonio, Texas. I have a company called Lone Star Valor Funding. What we do is help small businesses get the funding they need to get the growth they deserve, as well as we also help teach them how to grow their business credit, learn how to establish it, and learn how to utilize it correctly. I think those two big things right now, especially the way current, interest rates and that are it's going to be important to find the right funding for your business, and that's where I come in.
Okay. And for those who don't know you, how did that come about of you getting started and starting your Lone Star funding, and what drove you? What was the determining factor that really brought you to coming to doing what you're doing?
I mean, so obviously being in the military, I unfortunately got injured, and the military really couldn't fix it, so they medically retired me. And so when I got out of the military, I was a lost soul, to be honest. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't know, anything. I was kind of depressed about everything. But I decided to go back to school, decided to work on my accounting degree, ended up starting to help with a nonprofit, and looking at their funding and their the way they process everything. And so for me, I just always kind of wanted to be a business owner. My father's an entrepreneur, so it's like, it's kind of one of those things that I watched when he was growing or when I was growing up, and um, I always just feel that being a business owner allows so much more control than working for somebody. Um, I think in the military, we learn leadership, to a core, and I think sometimes a lot of people don't really understand leadership, and they just get that manager position or that position, and they don't focus on their team members. Um, I like to say that something that kind of always influenced me was there's that old saying of the customer is always right. um, and I don't really believe that, in the sense that I believe the worker, your employees, are should be more focused on than the clients, right? Because, and my thinking is that um, if I focus on the employees, right, we excel their their leader, their training, their you, you know willingness to do more things, willingness to put up with those people that may not be the best customers. And so but I think if you treat your employees right, then you can expect that they are going to treat the client correctly because they're treated right. And I think more times than not, that's what's happening with bad customer service is that the top is not treating them the way they should be treated. So anyway, so I went into business, kind of relied on my accounting background, my finance background, and decided to jump into this and see where that roller coaster takes me.
Okay. Oh, absolutely. And since it's been a minute, tell us a little bit about some of the projects you're working on, and some of the clients that you like to help.
Yeah, I mean, so for a big focus of mine is obviously veteran business owners, just because I feel like there's an attack on them, to promise grants, promise all that stuff. And so, my goal is ultimately to educate other business owners, because when we think of finance, we think of, funding, we think of, like when you go to the car dealership and get a loan for, your car, when it's not really that simple. There's a lot of different strategies that you can take with business funding. And so, it's really about learning the client, learning what their goals are going to be with that money, what they're trying to do, to achieve whatever they're achieving, and then make sure uh, that right funding source is going to fit for them, because not all funding sources are equal. I have plenty of funders that don't accept this or don't accept that industry, and so you can't always use that same person because they don't like it. I'm working on a project in Mississippi who I thought I found a good USDA loan, but they didn't like what they were starting, so we had to go and find a separate funding source for them because it just wasn't the right avenue. And so my goal is ultimately to get them funded, but make sure that it makes sense. I guess the other thing I always lean back on is, being in the military. We always talk about the horror stories of that young private that goes to the car dealership, right, and gets a 30% interest rate, on their car, and they're just drowning in debt. And so that's the same thing when it comes to business funding. I'm not going to try to put you in something just because it's correct. I'm going to try to advise them the best way to utilize that money.
Okay. And speaking of that, one putting in the right one, what are some of the key areas that a business owner should to expect when they come to you, or if they're just looking for funding in general?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So first and foremost, I don't charge a fee for my services. So anybody that's got any questions regarding funding, they can absolutely have a conversation with me, and I'm going to give them the best advice. And that can include, hey, you know what, funding right now doesn't make sense for you. You know what I mean? I'm not the kind of person that's just trying to get that sale, or that, I want to make it make sense for you as the client. And so I think that's important. Where if you go to a bank or a credit union, they're only going to show you what they offer, and that is it. Where I have a wide range of different lenders that allows me to figure, to kind of look at the requirements, look at what they're looking for, and then really kind of present it to them and say, hey, I think this might be the best option for you.
Okay. All right. And then, and in the past, uh, since we talked last, what are some of the things that you saw in the market, and that individuals have been, looked up. I know that we on the Mastery of Connection, we talked about over the past couple of weeks various different, unfortunate scams and things out there. What are some of the things that you would suggest the business owners to make sure that kind of separate you? Because I've known you for a while. I know you've got some great resources. How can you can rest assured put it
Well, I think.
put
Sorry, go
yes,
ahead.
sir.
My,
Well, no, I'm just saying,
uh,
what you can say to help kind of put their mind at ease that some of the information is out there.
Yeah, I'd say so. First and foremost, grants. There's this misconception that there are a lot of grants, and there are a lot for veteran-owned businesses, a lot of for minority-owned businesses, and that's kind of simply not the case. There are some out there, but you really have to go digging for it, and a lot of them are mostly used for nonprofits, not for profits. So that myth of grants, you'll see it on social media where somebody's going to provide you a list of grants and stuff. And so that is really geared to just get your information and your personal, information. And they're these grants are not real, to say the least. But there are grants out there that you just have to go search for it. But more times than not, you're going to want to look for business funding, for your business. The biggest thing that I've seen currently is interest rates suck. Um, you know, and the other one is that, credit. Um, what I can fund usually, any credit score from 500 to above. I've even gotten as low as 480. I've gotten approved. The biggest thing is that um, you have to understand that the worse your credit score is, the harder, or the amount of loan options diminish. And so I usually try to prepare clients for that if that's the case. I don't mind trying, but a lot of times it's not good enough, or the company is not making enough revenue to qualify. So those are usually the kind of the big things that I'm seeing currently.
Okay. And why would you recommend someone not try to do this on their own? Maybe just go to their bank, or maybe borrow from friends. What would you?
Yeah,
What are some of the suggestions you got?
I mean, borrowing from friends, obviously, I think is probably the best advice, obviously, because it's friends, family, right? Y'all can work internal deals. Usually, like those kind of things are a little bit better. But then also with family, is they've got to believe in what you believe in, right? You know what I mean? And so and then there's some people that are just not privy to that fact of having family members that can give them money, right? So the biggest reason why I'd tell people no is either the uh, what they're going to qualify for may drown their business based off the payments, or they're just they're going to be hurting, and so obviously I don't want to drown a business. The other thing is that sometimes um, it just they are at a point where the amount of funding options is going to be a lot, but those people are typically looking at like low interest rates, longer terms. And so again, it just may not make sense. If they are looking to sell their business in the next 5 years or next year or something like that, right? If they're looking to sell their business soon, it doesn't make any sense to add more debt into that, because either A, you got to try to transfer it over to the new owner, or B, you've got to pay it off before you can transfer the business over to the new owner. So it may not make sense in that regards as well.
Okay, all right. And what are some of the key tips that you would recommend a person to, or a business owner to, actually start when, if they're thinking about starting a business? Or do you work with startup businesses, or only just those who have been around for a while? Those kind of two-part
Yeah.
questions.
What was the first part again? I'm sorry.
I'm saying, when you started, when someone is looking to start a business, what are some of the key elements that you would recommend they get prepared to before they request for funding?
Yeah, so for startups, I absolutely can work with startups. I will say, and I'm always honest with this up front, if your credit is somewhere in below 650, um, it's going to be hard for you to get funding as a startup. And so that's kind of a key factor, because typically what I can do with bad credit is get them funded through the business revenue and what the business revenue is coming in. Obviously, you can't really do that. And so um, I think that's the first foremost. Make sure that if you don't have the best credit, you can at least bootstrap it for 3 to 4 months while you're bringing in revenue, because typically the lender wants to see a couple months of revenue coming in consistently before they'll even offer funds. So that's usually my best. My the first thing I recommend is, obviously, if you don't have the best credit situation, absolutely start a business, but understand it's going to be way harder for you than it is with somebody that has a credit score of 700, 800. They're going to be able to get funding, you know, a little easier. The other thing is that if you are looking for funding, you do have good credit, be prepared to have a business plan, a couple years of your personal taxes, tax returns, as well as any other kind of pertinent information that may come into that, like your EIN number, your LLC filing, or whatever your structure is for your business. Those are all kind of things that they're going to ask for. The other big thing is projections. I know it's kind of hard to figure out projections, but you should be doing your research and learning like what the industry's doing, and what to give yourself a kind of rough estimate of projections. Now, I say don't be too over the top with your projections. You, but don't undercut yourself either, right? Because these are what the banks are going to look at to dictate whether or not they want to give you funding as well. They want to make sure that you have a legit plan ready to go.
Okay.
Oh,
And as
oh, and then sorry, it just made me think. The other big tip that I would say is that if you're starting your business, or you have a business running, and you have not gone to Dun and Bradstreet and started your DUNS number, which is basically your business credit score, credit report. That's one of them. But a lot of people don't really know that you've got to go there and file and apply for your DUNS number. It's free, but it's one of those things that not a lot of business owners are doing at all.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for it. Yeah, every time I talk to you, you always have a wealth of knowledge, Jared, and I really appreciate you stop by. And as we wrap up here, just wanted to get a figure of how individuals can get a hold of you. Where's the best way? Social media, your website, your direct phone number. Let us know how we can definitely, those who are listening, reach out to you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, you can go to my website, lonestarvalorfunding.com. There is a chat that's directly linked to me. There's also a wealth of info on there. The other way they can get a hold of me is through my email, which is admin@lonestarvalorfunding.com. Or, they can call at 210-610 1970. And leave a voicemail if I don't answer. Sometimes I'm in meetings, obviously. So leave a voicemail, and I'll call you back as soon as I can, or text me at the same number as well. So whatever works for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, Well, as we celebrate this very special day, remembrance and a great veteran like yourself, it's so honor and privilege to have you stop by and again give us some updates on one of you any special events that you're working on or you're attending that we should know about, before we go ahead and pass the mic back to Emily, our wonderful podcast engineer, Kurt.
So I guess I don't have nothing, no big events myself. Uh, the biggest like we're working on some big projects throughout the country, and so I'm excited to see what those bring, and kind of excited to get involved in that. But otherwise I don't have any big events coming out on my
Okay.
own.
All right. Well, absolutely. We just wanted to again thank you for stopping by, and we're gonna pass on the curtain to let us know what other the word of everybody, the massive connections, and other places that we can definitely let our listening audience know about Lone Star Funding. Kurt, any or Emily, any other upcoming projects, or it's something that can be definitely supported the Lone Star Funding world and the massive connections.
Uh, yeah, but quickly before that though, I see that we have our friend of Christian Mendez on here as well. So I'll bring on him on stage.
Yes, we could not have. How dare see this? What happens when you start going sidetrack? We cannot forget, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Christian Mendez has been a brother from another. He has a lot of different resources, and he actually has another show or his show that is called Conversation for All. Christian, just want to introduce you to a veteran and a great friend of mine, and Jared of the Massive Connection Show, Jared Smith, who was actually our very first guest. So, Jared, this is Marketing for All, founder and creator of EC Marketing and a brand ambassador and supporter and the host of Conversation for All. Mr. Christian, can you hear me, brother?
Yeah, here for support. It is a commemorative of 9/11, so I tip my hat and I give this. I appreciate you, Jared, for everything that you. And just again, just take the time to in remembrance of 9/11. So again, thank you so much for just having me on the World of Ability Podcast Network, today's Disability Channel, projectdiehard.org. Make sure you guys go to our Facebook page or YouTube. Just like, share, and follow. Share the message. Also, check out Lone Star Funding. And Jared, give them some support. If we can spread the information out from credible sources and support each other, it's going to also help us protect our communities and to also be able to offer better services. Thanks so much again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Um, Christian is always supporting, us, and like you say, make sure that and Jared, we definitely would love to have you come back and give us more updates, and if you're available for Conversation for All on Fridays at 1 o'clock Pacific, um, and we thank you, Christian, for all he does in supporting the world of abilities and Project Die Hard and all the communities around the world who support veterans and those with abilities and voices in the disability and ability world. Mr. Kurt um, or Emily, our wonderful podcast and boss, do you have any other final closing words before we go ahead and you know call this another wrap?
Go ahead, Kurt.
Right, there we go. It was like a staring contest. We get it all here at Mastery of Connection. And I think this really is a great exhibit of Mastery of Connection because, there's 5 of us on the screen right now, and there's all of you out there watching and listening to this conversation. And, our whole passion is to create resources for everybody. And what we find as we practice Mastery of Connection with our master connector, Alan Holmes, um, you know, basically, DJ Holmes here, we can, MC Holmes, we can, really feel that mutual aid. We can feel that reciprocity, that interdependence. In some of the work we do with our nonprofits and so forth, and anything we have in connection with government work, agency work, they have this concept of wraparound, or in business, you might tout yourself as a, one-stop shop, and things like that. And that really is what you build up when you practice mastery of connection, because when you're out there well connected, or you reach a person like, MC Holmes, who is well connected, you get into a conversation like with Jared, where it's like, if your revenues aren't good enough, if your credit score isn't good enough, so what we can do is we can take all these things you're dealing with, and these roadblocks and these stumbling points and these things that, if it were a little better, your journey would happen a little faster, a little bit more readily. So we have gotten to know so many people in our trails in connecting that if we can't do it, someone can. I tell the story about 17 years ago. I met Brenda Allen with B. Allen and Associates here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And of all the introductory networking, elevator style intros, she's like, "Hi, I'm Brenda Allen with B. Allen and Associate. Do what you love and leave the rest to us." And so when I hear Jared speak, and, being able to visit with him time and again, we have that's heartfelt work. We're in the service industry. We're here to serve, and we know how hard we work to grow our capacity to serve. So every time we are serving somebody, or any of you out that's what we're here for. So back to you, Emily, as our podcast engineer. What would you like to do for our wrap up, Emily?
I just wanted to thank Jared and Christian for joining us today, and everybody else who has tuned in. And we are here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central, and I'd love to have all of you as a guest. So please connect with us if you are interested in doing that, and to check out our social media, YouTube channel, and our Facebook and LinkedIn, and so on. And also, want to have all of you check out our great organizations that we're working with, as in the Disability Channel, just joined the Disability Channel. Zach Clayton of Community Pay It Forward in the PAC Channel, Lawrence Wingate of Wingate Studios, Earl Williams with the Lone Star, with the Midwest Plainsman podcast. I'm missing something, but and so I guess until next week, just have a safe and productive week, and to stay happy.